And this one even shocked me. And it fits so perfectly in the Stitch parking lot off the back of Critter Country that it makes me wonder, did Disney pull a fast one on Hong Kong? Friends, I think I have cracked the code on the land that perfectly fits right where I'm standing as part of Disneyland Forward. I was looking into Disneyland Forward and doing a little digging around when I took the footprint to scale of World of Frozen and laid it over the top of this parking lot as part of Disneyland Forward. I was shocked. I was shocked. You cannot tell me that it wasn't designed with the idea in mind. Maybe if we get Forward approved, we'll just design it in a way where we know that it perfectly fits inside of Disneyland. Friends, today what we're talking about is so incredibly exciting. I think I've cracked the code on one of the developments of Disneyland Forward and what exactly is going to be the extension of Disneyland. World of Frozen coming to the Disneyland Resort. I will convince you by the end of this video. So first things first, let me just show you what I discovered. Let's take to scale the World of Frozen in Hong Kong and just lay it over where I'm standing right now. There you go, 0 editing required. It perfectly fits into this space. And I'm going to take you on a walking tour of World of Frozen at the Disneyland Resort. But first, I just wanted you to see how perfectly it fits. Even the walkway that would bring you over from the dead end of Critter Country is perfectly aligned for a tunnel or bridge to take you over Disneyland Drive. It's not an accident. I've done this plenty of times, and with a little massaging, sometimes you can get things to fit, but this was absolutely designed to fit inside of this footprint. There's no way this is a coincidence. This is purposeful. With the way that I believe I have figured this out, where I'm standing in the dead center of this now parking space will become that beautiful water lagoon that sits dead center. The water lagoon does something very important, and this is what we're going to break down today to convince you that this land was designed for this plot of land. The water puts everything further away from you. And because we're in an incredibly tight cul-de-sac of land, sight lines are super important for the trick of immersion. Therefore, putting us on one side of a body of water and putting everything big on the other side, it keeps a safe distance to where we never get too close to the outer perimeter. Therefore, we never get to see outside World of Frozen when we're standing inside of it, making us feel like we're really there. Behind me, where the checkpoints are, getting towards the 3/4 of the way up through this parking lot, is where I believe the castle will sit. This is super important because it gives you an icon on the other side of the lake, creating that scale, creating that forced perspective. When you come in from the tunnel from Critter Country and you see the body of water and you see the castle here on the other side, it tricks your mind into thinking that this is way bigger and way more expansive than what you think. But also, by putting the castle here, we keep it pretty clear out of the sight lines of the folks that live over on Walnut Street. One of the things that Disneyland has promised to the city and the community of Anaheim is that all the new things that they build with Disneyland Forward will have a 360 appearance to it. Think of the Matterhorn or Big Thunder Mountain. If you see those outside of the park, they look like real mountains. They don't look like Radiator Racers used to look, where it's just literally cut off and exposed to everybody outside of the park. So therefore, keeping the castle sort of centrally located somewhere in these parts would keep it pretty far from being seen outside of the park. Therefore, they don't have to worry about doing a complete 360 render to the backside. But also, if we look at what was built out in Hong Kong, we see that right along the edge of where the Mickey and Friends Pixar Palace parking garage is, that will be where the attraction Wandering Oaken's Sliding Sleighs will exist. So let's break down real quick how this is absolutely brilliant and how there's no way this is an accident. We have a giant parking structure that we need to make disappear. If we place rolling hills all along the side of that, at the top of the rolling hills, we plant trees that are at a perspective that look like they go back for a long distance, the parking garage disappears. But it also is a perfect placement for an attraction that's very tall, but not too deep. Therefore, the area that I'm walking in right now will become that attraction. We'll be flying around right here in sleds with a beautiful landscape behind us, making us feel like we're inside the world of Frozen. It fits absolutely perfect. But you ask, what about the view from the parking structure? Oh, I figured that one out too. Now, how do we make a parking garage disappear? Well, if you look at the height of this tree, you notice that from where I'm standing, it's about the height of the Mickey and Friends Pixar Palace parking structure. These branches, I can easily reach myself right at the top. So if you take somebody like me, who's about 6 feet tall, put my arms up in the air, only 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot walls in this area would make most of Mickey and Friends disappear. Now, in my Disneyland Forward series, I've already done a video about Disney buying Magic Way and taking that road out and converting it over to backstage. I do believe it will still be a road, but it will just be that service road that Disney puts on the outer edge of all of its theme parks, so cast members and security and emergency services can easily get around the outer edge of the park, never interfering with the guest experience. Sadly, as we all know, Disney has had some problems recently with activity on top of their parking garages that is pretty sad and kind of a disturbing trend that has happened at the park in the last couple of years. If you want to know more, Google it. Now's not the time or place. So on the side that we're standing on, imagine those rolling hills with trees at the very, very top of the landscape. But on the parking garage, imagine Disney putting in a modern design fence that would go along the southern side of the garage, therefore making it extra safe and secure on top of the garage, but also not making it possible where people can look over inside of the theme park, because you know what would break the immersion is seeing people stand above the trees staring at you as you're whipping around on your sled. This tall but narrow attraction existing right where I'm standing is a perfect way to make this land feel more immersive and to make the real land go away and disappear. Now let's see where we'll enter this land. So right around where I'm standing in the center of this parking lot, this aligns pretty perfectly with the dead end over at Critter Country, which I've been telling you for a long time. One day that emergency exit will be a transformational spot inside of the park to more Disney magic, and it feels like that is on the horizon. And if you think about it, it not only perfectly aligns on the map, as we could see, it would not be hard to create a tunnel or bridge that would bring people over into World of Frozen, but it also blends together very well as far as the design goes. Critter Country, covered in woods, sort of scenic. You're traveling through the woods, you go through a cave-like tunnel, and on the other side, you get to the far end of the woods, where you discover a beautiful blue body of water with a village that's formed all around it, and on the outer edge, rocky mountainscape and trees that just further puts you into the idea that you've traveled through the woods and you have made it to the edge of this land. I agree, Monorail, it's awesome. As we come through the portal and we take a left, we'll be walking around the lake, getting all these beautiful views of the outer edge around us. And we will be coming up to the little village. The village is super important, not only to add in shopping and food to make the land way more profitable, but it also adds the idea that if I'm standing here in front of a building that feels pretty tall, then just imagine how tall that castle or that mountain or those rolling hills must be out on the edge of my horizon. When you have something in front of you, it allows you to judge everything that is far away from you. So letting people get up close to the shops, but not get close to the other items, is a key of perspective, training the human mind to see things. Hey, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Training the human mind to see things in a way that we've been accustomed to in the real world, but using that trick to fool us for the imagined world. I love when people see me filming and I'm not in the theme park. I'm just talking to myself in a parking lot because I love this so much. And if you love it, how about subscribing to Hey Brickey and going on this wacky journey with me, where I give you 3 curated videos every week breaking down the past of the park so we can better understand its present and its predicted future. Thank you so much for joining Hey Brickey. I appreciate you. What a wild ride this channel's been. I'm so happy you're here, and I'm so happy we're talking about this. And by placing these shops and stores right where I'm standing, that is the perfect way to make the monorail disappear from the sight of the guests. Because if we're standing here, we won't be able to see the monorail going on the backside of the buildings, but potentially the monorail might have a quick glimpse into the world of Frozen. Now let's break down, how are we going to make the massive Disneyland hotel disappear? Well, if you see behind me are sheets of plywood that are 8 feet tall. Once again, I'm about 6 feet tall, 5'11". And if I stand this far away, maybe 15, 20 feet, I can just barely see the top of the Star Wars Galaxy Trading Post. If I go back further this way, obviously I can see a lot more. But the idea will be, what's the biggest wall that they need to put in that will basically block everything out on the horizon? Let's break down how we're going to make the Disneyland Hotel disappear. So it appears the backstage of the Frozen Ever After attraction would perfectly align with the Disneyland Hotel parking garage. Therefore, putting the attraction in this pickup lot, but keeping the lot in front of the Disneyland Hotel still active, and of course, keeping the parking structure for the Disneyland Hotel still active. So basically, taking out this spot here, which perfectly aligns with the edge of this footprint where security and your entryway currently into downtown Disney exists. And as I broke down in my video about Disneyland getting new front gates and why they're not putting in any new security right now, is because the security structure behind me is a temporary one, because they know that things are going to change and there's no reason to invest in a security system when one day it won't be needed, because guests will no longer be able to get into Disneyland at that entry point. But maybe Disneyland Hotel guests will have a little quick path into World of Frozen. That would be quite the nice perk. And the street that takes you up to the Disneyland Hotel, that won't be touched because people need to be able to drive to check into the hotel. But if we stand right about where I'm at, it wouldn't take a huge facade to make the Disneyland Hotel escape. Not at all. Considering that we have a parking lot there, we have backstage of the dark ride over there, a nice mountain facade, rolling trees will make the hotel go away. But remember that detail about Disney promising that they were going to make all these attractions fully rendered in a 360 design, so wherever you're at outside the park, if they pop into your sight lines, they would still look like something? Well, yes. Wait for this. I believe it does get even better. But essentially, the height of this school bus makes the hotel disappear. So it doesn't have to be that tall, because what they're going to build would be much, much taller. But looking around at items that are within my reach, it's not going to take a lot because of how far we're pushed back from the hotel to make it disappear. And then the same thing for what we see across the way. For the Pixar Palace parking garage, as you get further away from things, they get smaller. So basically, Disney using the far end of this land, the westernmost edge of this land, as a backdrop, as a set piece, to keep the story going on and on and on forever, but not letting you get too close to it, will be the great way to make all this disappear. But don't worry, it gets even better. There's one last thing that I think Disney has planned that will be absolutely magical. Now, you remember when I told you that Disney said, because they're nice people, they're gonna make all of these Disneyland Forward attractions in a 360 render, so if you see them outside of the park, they don't disturb your view? Well, I think there's a little bit more than that, because the idea of standing in the world of Frozen will be make something so we can't see out, because we're looking up, and that's an easy view to block. However, in the top of the hotel, you have a different viewpoint. you're able to look out and see much further than those on the ground. So if everything is fully rendered 360 style, is there a chance that if you stay in one of the top suites of the Disneyland Hotel, you'll be able to look out on a body of water, rolling hills and mountains, and see a castle and people having a magical day? And will you be able to do all of that from the Fantasy Tower? That's right, the one that's in the front actually give you a view into Fantasy when all this is built. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if it was intended, but if it works out, damn, that's Disney magic. And it fits so perfectly in the Stitch parking lot off the back of Critter Country that it makes me wonder, did Disney pull a fast one on Hong Kong? It was funded by Hong Kong International Parks that pays for Disney to do all of the research and development so they can put it inside of their theme park. And then after a handful of years, it goes over to where Disney can possibly use it for one of their theme parks after yielding to a 5-year exclusive, is what I believe I hear, for the international parks. And even wilder is exactly right now, while I'm doing this, just on a whim, just because I want to and because I love this stuff, Disney just wrapped up their quarterly earnings call. And here's a quote from Bob Iger that literally just happened while I'm doing this. "We've had a tremendous response from guests visiting our newly opened World of Frozen at Hong Kong Disneyland. And as I've said before, we also have so many untapped stories just waiting to be brought to life in our parks across the globe as we continue to invest in this extraordinary business." Friends, it feels more real than ever, even hearing him sort of lay that out there. Because what got me thinking about this was on this last round of Disneyland Forward publicity, where we saw Bob Iger, Governor Gavin Newsom, all really coming together to get excited and to show what's coming. They leaned a little bit extra on what could come to these two territories. And in my last Disneyland Forward video, I showed you that I no longer believe that they're going to make the worst mistake ever and make all of this one convoluted theme park. Because when we look at the artwork I've created for today's video, literally only one land fits in this area. Now, something else to keep in mind, parts of this build out are already over in Epcot. Another abbreviated version of it will be at Fantasy Springs in Japan. And we're even seeing this land being built over in the new extension in Disneyland Paris, showing that they have a lot of commitment to this. And why wouldn't they? Frozen belongs in Disneyland if it comes to California because it is a legacy property. It's one of those properties that's going to be evergreen, and it very much falls into the princess fantasy aspect of Disneyland. But the layout for Hong Kong's World of Frozen is the exact layout that would fit here. I bring this up because if the research and development's already done, if the customer satisfaction already exists, it makes it a very low stakes investment to replicate something here in Southern California that, if we're being honest, most folks just aren't going to make the trip all the way out to Hong Kong to experience, bringing Frozen to a different customer on a budget. So when we think about it being cheaper to reproduce that land over here in Disneyland, and then we also think about they normally give a 5-year exclusiveness to these lands, with that opening up in 2023, 2028 would be the earliest that we would see this. With the rate that Disneyland's forward moving, they're probably going to want to do this in little small sections, and they have promised to spend X amount of money in X amount of years, and Disney even feels so confident about that agreement that they're willing to put penalties on themselves if they don't spend that money. So I do see Disneyland Forward not being everything at once, but little small steps. This might be one of the first small steps, as so much of the planning seemingly is already done. What do you think? Is it a coincidence how that map perfectly aligns? Or did Disney have this planned all along and Hong Kong paid for a little research and development back home in Anaheim? From the edge of the future home of World of Frozen, Brickey here saying thank you so much for showing up. And if you want to see more about Disneyland Forward and my breakdown on it, check out this video here, where each chapter in this video is being broken down into a standalone video, just like I did today. Thank you for showing up. I'll see you real soon.